Nearly every car manufacturer makes some kind of high-performance version of their car, and letters like M and RS and AMG make their way into many wish lists, including ours.
Yeah, we love those, but the problem is you buy those models new, and they're so expensive they're out of reach of many of us. However, you get an ST or an Abarth, you can have that for 25 grand.
The Fiesta ST, it's like the little brother to the Focus ST, and the 500 Abarth, it's the caffeinated version of Fiat's capable city car.
Many of you have asked us to drive these two cars. So here we are, seeing how much performance you can pack into these tiny packages, or to look at it another way, turbos are fun.
In our original Fiat 500 review, we were pretty hard on this car. If you go back and watch that, we didn't like it that much.
Not because it's not a good car, it's a perfectly good city commuter car, but it's not a very fun car.
But now we're driving the Abarth 500.
In fact, it's the Abarth Cabriolet. I'll tell you this right away, you don't need the Cabriolet. It adds $4,000 to the base price. Once you add that, and you trick this car out, it's now a car that's $31,000, which is just too much. But you want the Abarth Coupe anyway, which means the base price is almost exactly the same as the base price of the Fiesta ST. Of course, it is still a Fiat 500. It can't get rid of some of the fundamental realities of that chassis.
The 500's designers deliberately chose a higher hip point, which means your seating position is a lot higher. They did this deliberately so that you would look other drivers in the eye, so you feel like you're driving a more substantial car. Now, personally, I would have preferred a much lower seating point.
The seating position is still pretty odd for fast driving, and it is a very tall, narrow package.
This is really a European car designed for European roads. The normal 500, the non-Abarth 500s, the styling is too tall, but the Abarth package has really made the proportions work a lot better. This car has character like the Mini has character, but in a little bit different way. It's cuter and not taking itself quite so seriously.
The Abarth badge itself is actually one of my favorites. I just love the look of it. I love the aggression of it. With the scorpion and the Italian flag, it's just really cool. The styling on the Abarth is the Fiat 500, just a little bit angrier. But this is a tiny car. To give you perspective, the entire length of the Fiat 500 almost fits inside the wheelbase of a Dodge Charger. Not quite, but almost.
And when it's on the freeway or you see it in a corner and it leans through the corner, this is a little animal. The styling is working with the Abarth package. That's reflected throughout the interior.
This Abarth feels kind of like a fun place to be. Everything falls to hand easily. I mean, ergonomically, you can reach everything really simply. They've designed this interior to be very stylistic, a lot of round surfaces, a lot of really good, well thought out design, but your body position itself feels like a delivery van.
Still the same 500, still this very upright seating position, although the pedals are so well placed, you're right on top of them, and so that heel-toe dance is very easy to do.
The seats are actually pretty cool. Getting in the back is a bit of a gymnastics exercise, even in spite of the large doors. With big guys like us, I don't know that this is a four-person car, but in many cases it really could be, and in spite of the tiny packaging, that's pretty impressive.
I'm finding it hard to take issue with just about everything in the Abarth.
Now you can get a million options on this interior, including, of course, navigation. But there's nowhere to put a nav screen. So what they've done is they've created it as a plug-in. It's from TomTom, it looks like an aftermarket unit, and it literally plugs into the top of the dash. That is the way it comes from the factory if you order navigation. This centralized gauge, it's a very cool design, and somebody figured out a great circular theme way to put all of the information in one place. The problem is, because it's all in concentric rings, it's very difficult to read quickly. And the miles per hour is one of the tiniest numbers when it should be the biggest.
Sport button, traction control off. Something we also mentioned in that original 500 review was the sport button. And I understand putting a sport button in average cars, it's an attempt to make them sportier, drive better. Well, the Abarth also has a sport button, which I don't understand. The whole damn car is a sport button. That's why you bought the Abarth in the first place. So it's now just become part of the startup procedure. It's twist the key, start the engine, hit the sport button, and turn traction control off. Everywhere you drive in this car should be with your hair on fire. That's what it's designed for. So even though I felt like the sport button in the original car didn't do very much, I felt a difference in this car. I still don't know why it's there. It doesn't need to be. It's the Abarth. It's the sport car.
The start of that change is the fact that this Abarth has 60% more horsepower than the standard model. Think about that for a minute. 60% more. So 160 horsepower in this tiny chassis feels like a good amount of grunt. The speed numbers on this car are almost the same as the Fiesta. The Fiesta delivers its power with a bit more authority, but this Abarth weighs 200 pounds less than the Fiesta, and that car's small.
I've decided my new purpose in life is to peg the boost needle everywhere you go.
And because of this exhaust note, you want to nail your heel toe just so you can hear yourself blip the throttle.
Now, if you heard this car and you didn't know what it was, what car would you think the sound matches with? I certainly wouldn't have chosen this car.
Come on, what is up with that exhaust note? That is exhaust porn. Everyday driver went out today and made a subcompact porn film.
I think if it didn't make this noise, it would drop a few notches just in excitement alone. As a matter of fact, I think it's one of the top reasons to buy this car.
You cannot buy a car for exhaust note alone. Never do that. However, the exhaust note of this car adds to the personality and the fun factor in a huge way.
The Abarth is a rare car. It's a car that makes you want to go drive it and hammer on it through little corners like this. There were a lot of things about this car that were very surprising, and one of them is the handling.
The 500 is a fun car to throw through corners. It's not as precise as the Fiesta, but I gotta be honest, it's a lot more fun than I expected. But it's still this tall and thin chassis. As a result, there's kind of unavoidable body roll here. Now, it's a very controlled, taut lean, but there's absolutely lean anytime you push this car.
What's so funny about the Abarth is every corner that I dive into, it's like the car forgot it could handle so well. Every single one, it's, oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I forgot that I could do that.
Yes, it understeers when pushed hard, but it's very controllable. There's a little bit of an adventure in driving this car hard. It's a little atypical. It's not perfect, but that kind of makes it fun. I think the 500 Abarth is the definition of chuckable. And this isn't a capable track car, but it's a decent canyon car.
I feel like I'm wrestling the car to the ground, and it's just part of the charm of the Abarth. This car wants to be loved, and it's working damn hard for it. There are plenty of cars you could drive on these roads, and they'll handle great, but this is just hilarious to throw through these corners. There's plenty of driving fun to be had in the Abarth.
The 500 Abarth is kind of like owning a small dragon. Yep, small dragon. I say that because it's snorty and it's got some aggression beyond its size. It's not perfect, it's certainly got its problems that make it a little bit hard to live with, but at the end, you own a dragon.
I want to go drive this car. Despite the fact that I'm not a huge fan of the proportions, despite the upright seating position, it's a blast to drive.
This is one of those cars that's surprisingly fun kind of because it's not perfect. I've had much more fun in this car than I thought I would, and that in itself is a big endorsement. Okay, so how much horsepower can you shove into cars this size?
Well, according to these two, apparently quite a bit.